Today we have the Glenrothes Triple Tasters Pack. Stay tuned. Hello YouTube and welcome to Happy Hour. Today we've got a fun little tasters pack we're gonna do, but first of all, I'm Paul.
Hello, I'm Kim.
We're gonna do a couples tasting again. We've done that a few times. We seem to have fun when we do it, so.
We have fun.
We have fun at least, yeah. You guys may not, but we get to drink together and pretend like we're on camera. So, well, not pretend, we are on camera.
Yep.
So anyways.
Pretend we have an audience.
Pretend we have an audience, yeah. Oh, and to commemorate, it's Super Bowl weekend here in the United States. So I thought I'd wear my jersey to commemorate this large sporting event. I don't know if the Canucks in it this year. I don't think so. But anyways, I digress. Today we've got the Glenrothes Tasters Pack. I always get the names of these little kits wrong, but it's a taster's kit, for lack of better words. It's 3 samples, 3 100 ml samples. And I've never tried the Glenrothes. I did the Famous Grouse video a little while ago, and in the minimal amount of research that I generally do on these videos, Famous Grouse, Naked Grouse, Macallan, Highland Park, Glenrothes, and I think there was one other one I can't remember, but they're all owned by the Edrington Group. So here's another one that we're gonna do by the Edrington Group. Glenrothes, there's 3 little bottles here. We've got the Vintage Reserve. We've got, this has got to be the Sherry, yep, Sherry Cask Reserve. And then we've got a Bourbon Cask Reserve. Ta-da! So this will be kind of fun. Not only have I've never tried any of them, but I get to try 3 of them. Well, we get to try 3 of them.
Yep.
All at the same time. So let me take a look at the bottles quickly and find out if, I don't know, I didn't even look. Like I said, I suck at research. I like just winging it because it's kind of funner that way. Funner's not a word either. So 40%, they're probably 40%, 40%, and 40%. All right, so they're all standard.
Cool. This is more my lane.
Yeah, so they shouldn't be too hot, but you never know. Like I said last time, sometimes you get low alcohol or 40% or 43% that burn like a mother, and I've had some whiskeys that are much higher in alcohol content that are smooth. So who knows? We'll see. I kind of wanted to do it blind, but as I'm looking at them right now under the lights, there's no point because they're 3 completely different shades, colors. So the vintage is right in the middle. The sherry is obviously very sherried looking, very orange, and the bourbon is a straw color. So there's no point in doing it because now I've seen them. I know which one's which. But again, it doesn't matter because I've never tasted any of them. We're going to taste them and see which ones we like the best.
Great.
All right, so we're going to open up, pour them, and we'll be back in a second. All right, we're back. So we've got the vintage, the sherry, and the bourbon. So do you want to start
Mix
on
them
that
up?
end?
Oh,
No, start on
okay.
that end. I'll start on this. There's no
Okay.
point in mixing them up. I know which one's which. Doesn't really matter. But
So, I'm sorry. Vintage.
Vintage Reserve, the Sherry Cask Reserve, and the Bourbon Cask Reserve.
So, help me here. These aren't bourbons?
None of these are bourbons. These are all Scotch whiskeys.
Oh.
Like I said, not only do we not do any research, or I don't do any research, we don't even actually talk about what we're going to do first. We just kind of jump in.
I'm not a Scotcheroo.
And it's Scotcheroo, right? Yeah, these are Scotch whiskeys. They're from Scotland.
Gotcha.
They're from the Glenrothes distillery, and they're just different finishes. I believe the vintage one, the Vintage Reserve, is like a mix of some of their older whiskeys that they have kind of lying around in barrels, what have you. This is a whiskey. None of them are age statement. Nope. So this is a whiskey that's finished off in sherry casks, at least. And this is one that's probably aged in bourbon the whole time and not finished off in anything, but I don't know. Basically, bourbon cask influence flavored, sherry cask influence flavored, and probably a little bit of both, depending on what they're mixing up. So I got the vintage.
Just sniffing. Okay.
Yes. We'll start with sniffing. Oh, wow. So I got really sour notes right out of the gate. So this right out of the gate reminds me of like a Glenfarclas 10. You get that sour apple cider. Huh. It's really nice. I like that. It's what I like about Glenfarclas. Not just what I like about it, but one of the things I like about it is it has that really unique apple cider note. It's not like a green apple, like almost like green apple Jolly Rancher, but like an apple cider, it's almost sour.
That's what I'm smelling here. Maybe,
Okay.
Maybe because I'm subliminal messages.
So I'm subliminally messaging you. It's possible. All right, I'm going to move on to the sherried one. Okay, that's totally different. You want to try that one?
Yeah.
So I still get a little bit of the maltiness. I got maltiness in the first one too, but there was overwhelming appley cider thing. This one I get the maltness. I still get a little bit of that actually, like the Glenfarclas. A little bit of that apple cider note, but whoops. Pause. Sorry about that. My kitty cat just knocked over one of my lights, but no big deal. So back to, I have the sherry cask. Yeah, so I still got the malty, a little bit of apple, but there's an obvious sherry note. This is quite nicely rounded. You get those three kind of almost evenly. All right. Yeah, I'm surprised. So at least from these two so far, I get that underlying, as soon as I smelt that, it reminded me of Glenfarclas, which is why I started loving Glenfarclas, was that weird apple cider note. So let me try this one. Ah, see, this one I don't get that at all. Nope, this one I don't get at all. This one reminds me of like a Glenlivet or almost a little bit like Old Pulteney, but without the briny notes, like fresh. If there's apple, it's maybe more of a citrus apple, like that's like the green apple,
Okay.
like the sweet green apple. I've through my minimal experience, I get two types of apples. I get the almost Jolly Rancher, like sweet fake, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I like it, but like a fresh sweet green apple, and then I get this other funky apple cider, kind of like soury apple. These ones I get the soury apple, and this one I get the yeah, the more the. Well, this is actually really fruity.
Yeah.
It gave me a little bit of orange, other citrus, but green apple. Okay, wow, they smell really good, and they smell quite different.
Bourbon, sherry.
Bourbon sherry and just vintage reserve, which is,
Gotcha.
again, I believe is just, I don't know what the hell it is. I think I heard somebody in a review months ago that it's just a bunch of casks of their various vintage casks that they blend together to make a vintage reserve.
All right.
Pricing too. Now this little kit was, I think, $40 for the three. I don't remember the prices specifically. I haven't actually been able to find most of these in full bottles, but I think these are both the sherry and the bourbon around $40 a bottle. I think this might have been a little bit more, maybe 50 or 55, but they're all, you know, in the same ballpark pricing.
Okay.
All right, I'm tasting. I'm starting with the vintage. Yeah, green apple. I still get kind of malty. Yeah, okay. It's actually a little bit hotter on the palate than I was expecting. Maybe because that's the first sip of whiskey I've had today, so let me give it another go. I don't get a lot of the apple on the palate. I get pepper. There's a sweetness, but it's more kind of like a barrel multi-sweetness. It's not that sweet. I get more spice than I do sweetness. So I like the nose considerably better than I do the palate. Now, like I said, that was my first taste today, so we'll come back to it and see what we get. What do you think of that one? Tastes like scotch.
It's easygoing.
Okay, well that's good. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when you're kind of starting out, right? You don't
Yeah.
want something to blow your brains out right out of the gate.
More so than that.
So definitely sherry influence on there. I'm getting a lot of spiciness on both of these. And like maybe more like white pepper. There's not, the spice doesn't really have so much a flavor, more of just a heat.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've tried this one already?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And this, you've tried this one?
No.
Okay. All right, so I got the bourbon. Yeah, it smells kind of just like a classic. That's the least spicy.
Yeah.
Let me get a bit of water first.
I think that's probably why I like it. I don't love scotch. I mean, I'm here for the fun of it, and I will obviously drink it. But I prefer bourbon, so perhaps.
Well, bourbon, I think what you like from bourbon is generally the sweeter.
Yeah. I feel like that's, and I don't know, you tell me.
Well,
I just feel like that's easier drinking.
that's probably I hate, this word smooth. That's probably the easiest drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. I don't really get much out of that. Believe it, from a flavor. I just get kind of an alcohol-y, little disappointing, actually. Because the nose is nice. The nose is kind of fruity and like Glenlivet, again, like a Glenlivet 12 or even like kind of like the rum cask or that Caribbean Reserve one. It's a pretty inexpensive one.
It's not bad, right? Mm-mm. Hey, are we going to try to rate these?
Yeah, we can do a rating.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd also thought of, I kind of looked at the last, I've only done a handful of videos, but I realized that I'm very crappy with my tasting notes because I'm learning. I'm doing this to kind of practice learning a little bit more, doing it on camera to try to remember to use some flavors and some notes and some sense. And then I realized that because I'm crappy at that, this probably doesn't help you at all. So I figured the least I can do is come up with a rudimentary rating system.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to, I know that some guys do like, 5 out of 5 on price, out of 5 on nose, out of 5 on palate. I figured it would just be like a 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, hopefully never a 0, but and include all those concepts, how does it smell, how does it taste, price, value for money, whether I would buy it again, and just kind of throw out a random number. At least it gives it something. And for me too, as I go on this journey, for me to keep a bit of a record to hopefully look back a year from now and be like, oh, I forgot that was a 9 out of 10. I got to try that one again.
It's for us as much as our beautiful audience.
As our beautiful audience of one. So back to the whiskey. That one didn't do anything for me. I wanted to have another quick little run. I'll probably cut this out, but
I'm going to do another run too.
All right, so I just took another quick pass through. Okay, I think I have my rating of which one I like the most and the least. You?
I need to try this one first. Real quick.
It's the 7th time she tried it. So
Okay.
I'm going to go with, I like the nose of the vintage the most because I really do like that kind of appley, sour apple pear punch, and there's a maltiness there. It seems the most, well, probably the vintage. It seems like the most going on. There's probably quite a few different ages of different barrels going on a little bit. So I like the nose of that the best, but I think I like the taste of the sherry.
Me too.
The best. And then unfortunately the bourbon one didn't do anything for me. It smelled okay. It smelled actually a little bit like I said, a Glenlivet 12, maybe a bit like a Glenmorangie 10, the original. Like it was fruity and lively and interesting. Not, incredibly complex, but the taste didn't do anything for me. It just tasted like kind of bland old scotch. So that kind of sucks for me, I guess, but whatever.
I could see why you say that. I liked it, but I don't love scotch, so perhaps,
Yeah, and again, I've said this a few times. Maybe my journey is maybe I'm starting to like slightly more complex things. But to be honest with you, like Glenmorangie 10 isn't the most complex thing in the world. It's reliable, and I love that. But so I just didn't get a lot out of the flavor. So for flavor, the sherry. For nose, the vintage reserve. So I'd probably give both of these, I don't know, 6.5, maybe 7, and I'd give this guy like a 5. But I wouldn't consider buying that again. At least off of this. Now luckily I've got about 80 milliliters left to fall in love with it. But even all 3 of these, as of right now, I probably wouldn't buy again, or I'd be in no rush to buy again. They're certainly not horrible, but there's just so many different bottles out there to try, right? So yeah, so maybe 6.5. Both of these, and 5.
Not bad, but of all the options out there,
yeah, not that interesting.
Not a top pick.
Yeah, not that interesting. Not that interesting for me, but I will seriously still enjoy finishing off these little baby bottles and move on to something else.
Yeah. What's your next video?
I don't know. Doing a first taste, cracking a bottle and tasting it on camera for the first time, it's probably not always the best way to evaluate a whiskey, because I've had a lot of whiskeys, scotches, all kinds of whiskeys that kind of develop on their own, whether it's, again, my taste buds or the whiskeys themselves. Mm-hmm. So this is just a first impression. I'd probably like to revisit these. And in general, when I do a first cracking, I'm going to try to revisit that bottle, halfway through or when we get towards the end, just to see if there's if it's worthy of another review at least, because I think that's probably a more useful way of evaluating a whiskey. But
we can do a second take.
Yeah, like again, if it's worth it, because I've had some bottles that are they are as they are later in the bottle as they were when I opened them. But,
Yeah.
but I've also had quite a few, a good portion actually, that had developed one way or another throughout the bottle. So,
Yeah.
so anyways, yeah, click like, click subscribe. Thanks for watching. Happy hour. See ya.